Hi there guys, welcome back and welcome to 2020. The World Cup of 2019 is well and truly behind us, but first of all just thank you everyone for viewing and commenting in that World Cup period. It was crazy, I got so many videos out, it was really good fun, really enjoyed it. Sure, England didn't make it in the final, didn't actually manage to win it, so I was slightly disappointed, but in general it was a good tournament, it was exciting, good to follow all the nations I follow, England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales in the World Cup, but that is gone now. It's New Year's resolution time 2020, 2020 vision as they say. So I'm looking at the Six Nations 2020, what should be the resolutions, the targets for the four nations that we follow on this channel in this year's championship. Now it's a weird championship in a way because like I said, there's no World Cup this year, there's no British and Irish Lions tour this year, there's a number of new coaches, so what do they do? So let's start with England. First of all, they're the only team who I'm saying their target should be to win the Six Nations this year in 2020. Why? Now, I had a really good comment off one of the World Cup summary videos where I said England I thought had a good year last year, they played really well, but then they said okay, fair enough, if they had such a good year, what did they win? And indeed they didn't win the Six Nations, they didn't win the World Cup, so was all that good work for nothing? So it's a good point. So for them I think they've got a settled coach, they've got probably quite a settled team as well, not losing a lot of players, probably no major overhauls yet, more gradual overhauls, so they're in a good position to challenge for this Six Nations, whereas other players possibly are not. So first of all, let's look at this Eddie Jones situation. So he's in for 2 more years, which is a little bit odd. I'm happy for him to stay, absolutely. I think he's a good coach. I think he's got England playing some really good rugby, a mix of traditional English forwards and also interplay, moving the ball wide, etc. So I really like that. But I want him either there for the whole 4 years or to go now and someone new to come in. So comment on that. I just don't like this 2-year thing. But in the short term, it should be fine. He knows the team, it's settled, etc. So, changes for England. Well, front row I think should be pretty settled. They could even retain Cole if they wanted. I think he's been playing as well as he had played in the World Cup. Maybe bring back Williams into the front row, but he's going to be settled. Good players. Marler's sticking around. I thought he might go back into international retirement, but I think he's kind of over that now. Genge Mako, George Cowan-Dickie, Sinclair, they're all there and they all should be really good. Second rows is slightly more interesting. We've actually had news that Cruz is going to move away to Japan soon. So do you include him? Because now he's obviously not going to make the next World Cup. Launchbury and Laws are still playing well, but they're probably not going to make the next World Cup either. So how quickly do you phase them out? Probably keep them in for now. Obviously Itoje will stay there, but I think they do need to slowly introduce some new second rows. And the 2 guys I think should come into at least the training squad. Hill of Exeter, who I think has been consistently excellent in the Premiership, and will be interesting to see if he can make that step up to international. He's got the physique for it. And Joel Kapoko of Saracens, who I think is the heir apparent. He'll need time though. Back row, well, we've had a period where there hasn't been much in the way of quality in England's back row. Robshaw and Haskell have been our mainstays for a while and there's not been a lot behind them, but now there is quite a lot of really good young back row. Obviously Tom Curry, Underhill, Billy V especially will certainly stay as maybe our first choice or up there from the World Cup, but the 3 guys I think should definitely come straight in are Alex Dombrandt, Sam Simmons and Ben Earl. I think they're really high quality players, matured. Someone like Ben Earl has really matured. Sam Simmons continues to be excellent even after his bad knee injury, and Alex Dombrandt has just had a sensational 2 years and he's exactly the sort of guy you want as a backup for Billy V. So those 6 is quite exciting. 10s wise, Farrell and Ford are still going to be around, which is good for England. Joe Simmons I think is now the next cab off the rank. Marcus Smith still playing very well for Harlequins, but Harlequins not having the best time of it. Exeter are. Joe Simmons looks like he could slip into that role quite well. So Joe Simmons, maybe Smith as well, into the training squad. And back three, again, is pretty settled. The likes of Watson, I think Watson might be injured now actually, but Noel, May, Daly, Thokanasiga needs to keep his development going. Would have been a shame. It's a shame that Malins has got injured actually. It would have been good to see him in as another 15 option. And Ollie Thorley is a guy I think is ready for international rugby. So, in summary, that squad is very settled. There's a nice, small number of new players to bring in, to gradually bring in. I don't think there's any rush anywhere. So, like I said, resolution for them, win the 2020 Six Nations. They do have some issues. Their main problem area is in the centres. Playing Farrell at centre, yes, he's done very well for England. I still don't think it's the best way to go, but what are the other options? Maybe it is now time to try some of these guys that have played well in the Premiership, like Hill of Exeter and Centre Hill of Exeter and Atkins of Gloucester, and see if they can step up, play a specialist 12 alongside the likes of Tuolangi at 13 or Joseph at 13 or Slade when he's fit. But anyway, so there's a few issues there. Who's the 9? How are they going to manage the 9s? Do they bring new 9s in straight away, etc.? But generally pretty settled. They should be gunning to win this Six Nations, I think, more than anyone. On to Ireland. Now, very interesting for Ireland. In 2020, they've obviously got a brand new coach in Andy Farrell. Well, a brand new head coach. He's been a coach there for a while now, but he wants to make a new break of it, of course. The performances in 2019, as we know for Ireland, were disappointing. We don't need to go over that. I've done videos on that. And it's really set up for a new start, if you like. A very clean slate. Ireland are in the position where they do have quite a few players to call upon, more than Scotland and Wales, not as many as England, but they have the depth where they can shake things up. They can try new players. They can give older players a bit of a kick up the bum by bringing in new players. And I'll be amazed if Andy Farrell doesn't do that. So, for me, his New Year's resolution is to select new players, mix it up, pick on form, and establish his new systems and norms. Performances, results, I think probably maybe even secondary in this Six Nations. And I think he's got licence to do that. No one's expecting amazing things straight away. It's not like they're coming off the back of an unbelievable year anyway. So I think he's got quite a good place to make this new start from. So yeah, pick on form, absolutely. Players like Cooney simply have to play and I think have to start. I put Cooney into my World Cup squad for Ireland prior to the World Cup. Do check it out. I did do it consistently. He was excellent then. He's even better now. He's Ireland's number 1 by miles. Murray can absolutely be on the bench and he's still a good player. It should inspire him. Players like McCloskey, 12, perfect. If Andy Farrell is going to be a bit more, not expansive, but possibly offload a bit more continuity, a little bit more unpredictable in attack, he's actually a great guy. He's a very strong ball carrier, but he offloads, he creates, people running off his shoulders. Henshaw's back to fitness, and Ringrose, either of them, those at 13, I think that would be great. Cooney, 10, I would have had Carberry for sure. He's got injured again. Poor guy, he's not catching a break. Could his international career be a story of injuries and never quite making it? Sexton's still playing well, should be fit. Beyond Sexton, I'm not sure Byrne, Carty are quite going to make the grade of top international. I might be wrong. They really need Carberry. It's a bit of an issue, but anyway, Cooney 9, Sexton 10, McCloskey 12, Henshaw and Ringrose 13. I can see them building a new attacking style off that for sure. Would have been great to have Carberry in. Players like Addison as well, maybe come in, mix it up. Low coming in onto the wing potentially. Youngsters like Doris at number 8, Kelleher at hooker. I think get them in, get them experience, mix it up that way. It should be a nice fresh start for them. And they've still got very successful domestic teams, or certainly Leinster incredibly successful, Ulster looking good again. They've got plenty of good players. They can mix it up. They can say, right, Lama, you're 15 for this Six Nations, make it your own. Captaincy, well, James Ryan is the obvious choice, but how quickly do they go to him, I think, is the only question. They're probably going to go temporary Sexton or Peter Amani and then bring in James Ryan later. But anyway, it's quite exciting. I don't think there's a huge amount of pressure on Farrell and Ireland, but if they have bad results, pressure always builds. But I would say that's their resolution. New players, new systems. Don't worry about the results too much this year. Now, Wales is similar to Ireland in a way. They've got a new coach in Wayne Pivac. They'll be definitely experimenting with new styles, but I think they'll have less player turnover than Ireland will. They've got less players anyway to choose from. Traditionally, their domestic scene isn't the strongest, hasn't been the strongest, but they have always pulled together a great Welsh team, so I think that will continue. So I think their resolution is more on style of play. What is this Pivac style of play? Warren Gatland has been incredibly successful, so I think Pivac does have a bit more pressure on him than Farrell, because he comes off the back of this very successful year last year as well, in most opinions, won the Six Nations, good showing in the World Cup. So it's a bit of pressure on him, especially when he's trying to change systems. Quite a tough ask, but he does have a very settled team and a lot of positives, few retirements. Alan Wynne-Jones wants to keep going. They get into the British and Irish Lions, tour to South Africa next year. And they've got the return of Talupi Faletau, fantastic. Wainwright will be even better this year. I think he's fantastic. Rhys Webb has come back to Wales, which is brilliant for their 9 options. Corey Hill should be fit in the second row. Those are big returns for Wales. Should be some new faces, but not a huge amount. Certainly, we'll probably see Lane and maybe Reece Zammit in the backs, in the mix, and probably at 10, Jared Evans will slowly get introduced into 10 to be the new 10 for Wales. I think Bigger's still playing great, so that would work well. Which 9's a good question. Webb, Gareth Davis, Thomas Williams. Take your pick, let me know. I'd be tempted to put Webb straight back in almost, but that might send the wrong message. But anyway, they do have a few issues. Centres, I think, is an issue. There's a lot of injuries there. Jonathan Davis can't keep going on forever anyway, even though he's injured. Hadley Parks, is he really the centre to ignite a new style of play? Maybe. I think Watkin may be injured. Williams, has he ever quite made it at that level? So there is, like England, questions in the centres. And like I said, with the domestic form, it always thinks, will it catch up with Wales internationally? And it never seems to. They're still not performing that great domestically, apart from the Scarlets, but it doesn't seem to be a problem yet. And when you look at the players, it doesn't look like a problem in the short term. But anyway, let me know what you think. Pivac's other goals, like I said, number 1, establish his style of play. But what could he actually target? Well, beating New Zealand is one target that they haven't done since '63, I believe. And of course, ultimately winning a World Cup would be another long-term target. But in short, establish his style. He's got a settled bunch of players to do it with. It should be quite good, quite interesting, quite successful. They'll have a good shout at this Six Nations to win a back-to-back Six Nations. But I wouldn't put that as their main goal. Lastly, Scotland. In 2020, they've got the same coach in Gregor Townsend. I believe that was the right call. I said that at the end of the World Cup. Luckily, they did retain him. They saw the sense in that, and he'll have learnt from that World Cup. Sure, Scotland were disappointing, but he will have learnt, and the player potential is still there. However, for 2 years now, I think I've been saying the potential of the Scottish team is huge. Their resolution surely has to be consistency of performance. They just haven't been consistently great. They've had times when they're amazing, times when they're very poor. It's a tough ask because they always play in the Six Nations against top teams, but certainly performance levels haven't quite been there. The pack does still need to hit harder, although there are bright lights there. You look at the likes of Cummins, Bradbury, Johnny Gray. Hopefully he's going to Exeter. That should really rejuvenate him. He's still a class player. Richie on the flank will mature. Hamish Watson hopefully will come back in. If they can beef up that pack, get more parity, then of course we know they've got the talent in the backs. And at 9 and 10, they're nice and settled, great options, Probably time for Laidlaw to move on. I'd like to see him in a coaching role with Scotland quite soon, actually. Like Warburton, I think his experience, the way he thinks would be great for Scotland. But have Price and George Horne as your 1 and 2, Russell and Hastings as your 10s. It's great. It's a great combination. Finn Russell's playing fantastically well. Yes, many people are saying that's because he's behind a Racing team with an amazing pack, and that is true. And of course, if Scotland can recreate anything like that, then they're in for a great time. But consistency, Finn Russell, etc. Do you ever try and change the way he plays? It's a big discussion point. Let me know what you think. They've got to work out who their best centres are. Johnson, Jones, Hutchinson, Horne, Taylor. They've still got to work out exactly what their best combination is there. But good news as well for them at the back. Stuart Hogg, who has just been struggling a little bit for form the last couple of years, definitely looks rejuvenated at Exeter. Good place for him to go. He'll be joined by Johnny Gray soon. So some positives for Scotland, but will their potential actually be fulfilled this year? Let me know. So those are my targets, resolutions for the 4 teams that we follow. Next video will be picking Six Nations squads, so please start commenting on that. And if you're getting into the Six Nations vibe, of course, if you go to the England Rugby store, then we've got a 10% discount. Use RugbyAnalyst 10. Use the link below in the description to get any Six Nations stash you might want. So until the next video, guys, I will see you then.